Fight fans all over the world, it's Daddy P, Slap Pappy Gorilla. What? Daddy P, hey, listen. I'm back with y'all, man. Terence Crawford, Errol Spence Jr. is in the books. Hey, Terence Crawford just became undisputed in the 147-pound division. He was also undisputed at 140. So, hey, look, that's two-time undisputed champion, man. And, you know, that makes him, hey, right now, the best pound-for-pound boxer in the sport, man. Hands down. Hands down. No argument with Inoue. No disrespect to Inoue. But Terence Crawford just beat a guy who had all three belts in a division that cleaned out basically the division. And the competition was there for him, you know. Like Inoue, I ain't taking nothing from Cool Boy Steph, nothing at all. But the type of opponent that Errol Spence was, man, look, you got to give Terence Crawford the goods. Hey, it is what it is. So pound for pound king, man, and very humble and, man, from the beginning to the end, you know. And I just take my hat off to him because of he did have an opportunity to really shine and, you know, kind of talk trash. But he was matter of fact now, but he was very classy, you know, in saying what he said, you know, and he also thanked Team Spence. He thanked God and he thanked Team Spence, you know, because without Errol Spence, he wouldn't have been able to do what he did, you know. He wouldn't have been able to prove who he was. So he thanked Errol Spence. I think that was very classy. And he just talked about how, you know, people talked about him, said he was too small, you know, said he didn't have it, you know, or whatever. But he said he just kept his head to the sky, kept praying for the opportunity to show the world how great he was. And indeed he did, man. He did what he was supposed to do. No excuses from Team Spence. And I'm going to tell you, man, with Team Spence, man, you know, people making a big deal out of, like, I ain't going to say people. I did hear a couple people mention it about Derrick James, man. Look, it was Derrick James couldn't get in there and fight for Errol Spence, you know. I mean, and really, it was nothing he could tell him. And what he was telling him, yeah, it wasn't going to work. You know, and I'm saying that respectfully because it's just Terence Crawford is levels above, man. And I'm going to tell you, at the end of the fight, Errol Spence told, I forgot the interviewer for Showtime, Jim Gray. Errol Spence told Jim Gray that his speed didn't surprise him. He knew he was going to be fast. And that his, I think he said what, power? I can't remember what he said. But he said that it didn't surprise him. But honestly, I think it did. I think that the hand speed along with his coordination, man, it was just too much for him because you could tell with the countering, he didn't think Crawford was going to be that sharp and fast to come back with the counters. And that's why he kind of relied on the fact that he was going to be able to continue to keep that engine running and become like, you know, go downhill on Crawford. But, man, look, some people say that push or whatever, like with how Terence Crawford pushed him back. I heard Showbiz the Adult. I think also the Angry Man podcast, Jason and Greg, I think Greg said somewhat the same thing. But I'm going to tell you this. To me, in the first round, the first time that Terence Crawford countered Errol Spence and hit him with a shot that backed Errol Spence up, that's when I say, oh, yeah, this is going to be a long night for Spence. And actually, in the first round, Spence was pumping that jab. You know, he was trying to get it going. But by the second round, the jab, he was trying to throw it, but he wasn't throwing it with the same authority. And it wasn't like people I heard some of the people saying how that Errol Spence just wasn't doing the same. He wasn't the same. Man, look, he couldn't. He couldn't, man. He couldn't. And that's one of the things I said in the little prediction, man, was that, you know, it's things Terence Crawford can do to take that jab away. And Terence Crawford said it. In one of the interviews, Terence Crawford said it. He said he didn't say specifically that he was going to take the jab away. He just said that y'all think that Spence gonna, like, y'all talking about his work rate and his jab. He say, but he said when he getting countered and when he have something to think about, he'll think twice about how he throw his jab and how he come forward. Really, he was talking about how Spence come forward. And it was one of the interviews, man. I can't remember which one. I watched so much stuff during this whole build-up, man, I can't even remember. But I remember Crawford specifically saying that. But what I mentioned in my prediction was, because you could tell that was going to be the game plan by just a lot of stuff I heard from their team. But that they were going to try to take the jab away from Errol Spence. And that's what Terence Crawford said at the end of the fight. You know, that was the thing coming in that they were most worried about, because everything happened off the jab with Errol Spence. You take that away, that's basically the whole equation. Because now he's going to be like a fish out of water trying to do everything else. He's not going to be able to do it without the jab, you know, without the jab working and pushing the fighter back. And you know, it's a lot of flaws, and that's what Bomac even said. It's some flaws to exploit in Spence's game. It's just that fighters were too overwhelmed by him to exploit him. But Terence Crawford, you know, and people knew. I heard several people say that, yeah, Spence reaches. I think even Angry Man podcast said something about that. He does reach. He always do. But a lot of those guys can't exploit it because they get so overwhelmed by his strength and, you know, his relentless approach to, you know, his game, you know. But Terence Crawford is so calm, cool, collective. Something Sean Porter said, you know, and Sean Porter prides himself on making fighters uncomfortable. He said, and he was in the ring with Crawford, he just never seen that he could make him uncomfortable. And Sean Porter was winning rounds, but he still felt like he has Crawford uncomfortable. And that's how calm, cool, collective he was. And something I want to mention, man, if y'all rewatch that fight, I heard a lot of people say, especially Spence, hardcore fans don't want to watch that fight again. It's hard to watch. Man, I'm be honest with you. That's a hard fight to watch, man. If you care anything about Errol Spence, and like I say, I like both fighters, so it was hard for me to watch, man. But if you go back and watch the fight and just look at Terence Crawford's eyes, Terence Crawford could see everything that was coming at him, and that's why he was able to get out. And something Bomac said in the corner, when you heard him talking in the corner, Bomac said, he too effing slow for you. You got it. What he was saying was, like, the stuff that he doing, you can see everything. It's not just about the speed. It's about, see, boxing IQ has to do, with speed, but speed and thinking on your feet. That's what Crawford has. And if you look at his eyes in that fight, he saw everything that was coming at him, and that's why he was able to stand in the pocket. Terence Crawford didn't. He's able to use lateral movement. Now, I heard somebody say that he don't move like that. He hadn't been doing it, but he's able to. He did it a lot. This was back in the day, but when he fought Victor Poster, he did a lot of lateral movement. But he didn't do a lot of lateral movement last night. He was comfortable staying right there in the pocket. He was comfortable. He could see everything that Errol Spence was doing. Like, from the first round, he was trying to push Crawford back. Crawford stood his ground, and then a lot of people say, I think that was in the second round, when he pushed Errol Spence. I knew how strong he was. The man was a wrestler, and, you know, he deadlifts, you know, and you see how much he deadlifts. The guy's a wrestler, man. Even though he got a small frame, he got that wiry, strong frame. Durable, strong, wiry frame, you know. And he did that to every welterweight, man, from the beginning. And I said this, but people ain't listen to me, I don't think, because, you know, even though, okay, Jeff Horn was, to a lot of people, wasn't a formidable opponent. And I understand that. But Jeff Horn was strong enough to push around guys like Manny Pacquiao. But when Jeff Horn tried to bully Crawford, man, if you look at that fight, go back and look at it. Terence Crawford bullied him the whole fight. He made Jeff Horn look like, God dang, I can't bully him. He coming up from 140, but I can't bully him. It's the strength of Terence Crawford. And also with Sean Porter, man, he let Porter know. And Porter is the one, hey, he come to bring them tactics where he go, you know, try to intimidate you with, you know, with a few things. But he couldn't do it with Crawford. Crawford is a strong young man. And, you know, his strength coming up in weight, yeah, he's a strong guy. You know what I'm saying? And he's a wrestler. You know, you have to be strong to be a wrestler. And so it just was some of those things I knew. Now, I didn't know how strong he would be against the bigger guy, Errol Spence. I felt like Errol Spence was going to be the stronger guy, but I didn't think Terence Crawford had to use his strength. But I think Terence Crawford was sending a message to Errol Spence early, letting him know, like, nah, you ain't finna bully me, bro. And Errol Spence tried to go up to him, grabbing him but he couldn't move Crawford. And Crawford pushed him back with his elbow and letting him know that, hey, look, it ain't finna be that kind of night. But I think even before that, when Errol Spence was pumping his jab in the first round, because in that first round, Errol Spence was pumping the jab. He was trying to get it established. And he wasn't landing it effectively, but he was throwing it effectively to try to set it up. He hadn't set it up. I'm not saying he set it up. Don't say that. Don't say I said that. I'm saying he was pumping it. He was throwing it. But the first time that he countered Crawford, where Crawford countered Spence and it pushed Spence back, that's when I knew, man. And it just was repeated all through the fight, man. And something Terence Crawford said they worked on in camp. And you got to take your hat off to Bomac and the entire camp. That camp worked, man. That camp, hey, them guys did what they had to do to study what they had to study. You could tell it was a team effort. And Terence Crawford mentioned it, and Bomac mentioned it. He said, hey, don't take your hat off to me. He said the whole team. He said it was a team effort. But yeah, you got to take your hat off to Bomac. And what he was telling Crawford in the corner, man, was things that manifested in the fight too. And he was telling Crawford, he like, hey man, give yourself enough room for your punches inside. Like when he go inside, you know, when he inside with Spence. And when Spence was on the inside, Terence Crawford still was teeing off on him. And a lot of the time, Spence was trying to grab Crawford. He was trying to grab him to stop his momentum. Because, like, when Crawford land one of them hard shots, it's like Spence would go grab him to try to slow down the momentum so he could try to stay on the inside and fight some. But Crawford wouldn't let him. Crawford was not just strong, but wiry. He was wiry to the point where he couldn't, like, put his hands on him. He was slippery. You know what I'm saying? And even inside, Crawford was able to give himself enough room to punch and get his... And I know, I heard a lot of people say this and build up to the fight, talking about how Crawford throws wide looping punches. Listen, man. you have to look at boxing for what it is. Some guys throw wide looping punches that you can punch between. But when Crawford throws those type of punches, they are calculated. You know what I'm saying? And he throw them from angles where it's hard for you to counter him. You got to look at that, man. You got to look at it. Listen, I know I'm not a boxing guru, but man, watching Terence Crawford has taught me a lot about boxing, man. Just watching how he moves. If you go back and watch Errol Spence fight, go back and watch Sean Porter fight. He was kind of toying around in that Sean Porter fight, but watch a lot of his fights, man. Terence Crawford, when he does throw those type of punches, he's angling, you know. He angles himself to the point where he's able to throw those shots, and it's not the type of shot that you finna come back at him with or punch with him, because a lot of time he's countering you. You know what I'm saying? So, man, look, a lot of people say, oh, yeah, Crawford throw wide looping shots. Errol Spence shots is more straight, so he go get there, man. Listen, Errol Spence I take my hat off to him, but Terence Crawford is levels above Errol Spence. And you know, you can't make excuses for him. He beat 2 champions. And, you know, you go say the car wreck and all that, man. Look, he beat 2 champions on the way. You know, he beat one guy that was a former 2-time weight division champion in 2 weight division, and then he beat the guy that was the WBA champion. You know, so I mean, don't let that be the excuse. This guy just has skills, man. And now you got to start talking about that. You got to start putting him with the greats. Hands down. They talked about him, his resume, and all of that. Man, listen. Who else he got to beat to prove itself? When he beat Sean Porter, y'all say he wasn't the same. First, everybody was saying that, okay, this is going to be the test to see how he looks against one of the welterweight elites. Then when he beat Sean Porter, he knocked him out. Say, oh, it was a premature stoppage. Man, that was going bad anyway. And then you say, oh, he wasn't the same fighter after he fought Spence. So now he fought Spence. Now who he got to beat for everybody to, man, you got to get a man right now. You got to get a man his accolades. 2-time undisputed, humble guy that let you know. And I'm going to tell you, he was a class act at the weigh-in. He got a lot of respect for Spence, you could tell. You know, it's some guys he was in the weigh-in with that he was a little more aggressive. But with Spence, man, he shook his hand at the weigh-in, and people say intense. Nah, it wasn't an intense stare down. Them guys shook hands and talked to each other. Terence Crawford say, man, we about to make history, bro. And they did, you know. And, you know, Terence Crawford got the better deal of it, but they made history. And I'm proud of both guys. I take my hat off to Errol Spence. He was ready to go out on the shield. He was ready to go out on his shield. He knew he had no answers, and honestly, his corner had no answers. That ain't really their fault, man. You know, everything that they was doing up to that point was working for them. But for Terence Crawford, what type of camp you gonna have for Terence Crawford, bro? When you a 3-belt champion and everything you've been doing been working. What kind of training camp you gonna have for a guy that's a switch hitter? Who you gonna get to mimic him in sparring? It's just, man, look. You could say, yeah, they were ill prepared, but man, their game plan is just been the same, and it's been working for them. And that's why, one of the reasons why I knew it wasn't gonna work, man. It wasn't go. Errol Spence, I don't care how many times they fight, Errol Spence was gonna lose, man. Because Terence Crawford is a special fighter that, and I heard some people saying by his IQ, oh, he didn't really have to use his IQ. Every minute that Terence Crawford is in that ring, he is thinking. And his IQ for boxing is, and then, I mean, along with his coaches, they see stuff and they tell him to tweak it, and he do it. And when he do it, he's successful. Bo Mack was telling them some stuff in the corner. And he was encouraging them, but at the same time, he was telling them little tidbits, little things to do. Hey, come up over that jab. You know what I'm saying? Listen to him in the corner. Then, like I say, he was telling them when he on the inside, give himself, like letting them know, don't smother your offense. Give yourself some room. And what he was talking about, he ain't gonna say it like they talk about it in camp now. He gonna go in more detail because he don't want to give everybody they little codes how they do. But basically he was letting them know how to move on the inside, how to pivot, letting them know he knew what to do when he told him what to do because he did it. Because on the inside, man, even when Errol Spence was close to him, close enough to grab him, Crawford would kind of shake him and still throw a hook and land it flush. And Terence Crawford talked when he was explaining to Jim Gray what he was doing and his punches, he was telling him what he was teeing off on. He was like, oh yeah, and that one, that first one, oh yeah, that was just a flash knockdown. I hit him with the left. He didn't think I was gonna come back with the right. See, that's that speed. And he came back and still hit him with that right hand jab and knocked him down. That first knockdown was from a jab. But he had already hit him and he was off balance. And that's the thing. A lot of times too, people talk about Errol Spence, how his stance is. He's always, man, look, it's times when Errol Spence, it's been that way. He be off balance a little bit but people can't take advantage of it, man. Especially when he reach, when he overcommit sometimes, you know, when he's punching. But a lot of people can't exploit it. Terence Crawford his IQ computes quickly in the ring. He's able to see that. That's why I say, watch the fight again and look at his eyes. Terence Crawford, every move he made was calculated. And he could see Spence. What he was doing, he knew what Spence was going to do before he did it. That's why every time, like when he caught Spence off balance, he knew he was off balance. He knew he could hit him and change the whole pace of everything. And I think they saw that on tape. I think they saw some of the stuff that they were going to try to exploit. And they knew that Terence Crawford was quicker than Errol Spence. And that his IQ, he thinks quicker on his feet. You know what I'm saying? That's what's special about it, man. Is not only is his IQ high, but he think fast on his feet. But I ain't gonna keep beating the dead horse, man. This Daddy P, man. Y'all slap that like button for me, man, and subscribe to the channel. Hit that bell icon so you can be notified every time it go down. This Daddy P, man. Look. Hey, my hat's off to Terence Crawford, and I kind of got a somber mood, man, because I'm hoping Errol Spence is okay. Man, look, his face, and I'm not saying this as a joke, his face looked like ground beef, man. And it started early. It started like in what, 5? It started about in round, watch that fight again, about round 4 and 5. His face was already coming apart, and I don't know, I ain't agree with everything Tarver said, but Tarver made some good points. Tarver say, man, he think it was because of plastic surgery, the stuff that happened from that the bad car wreck he had, and that very well could be true, man. You know, they probably did some plastic surgery, and his face just was, man, his face looked bad, even early. From early, it was looking bad, and you know. But yeah, man, Terence Crawford just took advantage of every flaw that he saw, and you could tell it was some things they saw in camp they wanted to exploit, and also, you know, it just his counter punching ability, his ability to take the jab away just was impeccable, man. And he just made some little slight, but that's his IQ. People don't equate that to his IQ, but it's little things like sidestepping, like. Some of that stuff, he was getting good angles. When Spence do certain stuff, he was stepping to the side just slightly, and he was also like parrying the jab. He was slipping the jab, and he was coming back with an offense that like Spence wasn't quick enough to even like counter him back, you know. And then he started getting desperate. He just wanted to land because, see, Errol Spence is used to landing. And what he feel like is if he can touch you enough, he gonna start making you weary enough to back up, and then he got you. But, so, you know, as the fight went on, he sold out to himself. He say, man, look, if I'ma just go all out, I'ma just try. And he did, you could tell, he started really reaching. And Terence Crawford started taking advantage of it more and more and more. Until in the 9th round, man, it's like, I'm glad that it was on Showtime, because Showtime had that trainer tracks. That's why I'm saying go back. If you got the pay-per-view, when they was doing the trainer tracks, listen to Bo-Mac. Bo-Mac was telling him too. He say, hey man, he ain't got nothing on his punches no more. He ain't got nothing for you, so you could stand in the pocket. And basically he was letting him know that, hey, now it's time to basically, when you counter him, hey, sit down on them punches. You know what I'm saying? And that 9th round, man, Harvey Dock seen enough. At that point, hey, Errol Spence still had enough to go. He wasn't out on his feet, none of that, but it just, Harvey Dock had seen enough, man. And if it would have kept going, he probably would have made it to round 10, but he wouldn't have made it out of round 10. He wouldn't have made it to round 11, I don't believe. But this Daddy P, man, I'm out of there.